Tom Fornelli over there at CBSSports.com, friend of the Grum. We've had him on many times before.
Though he doesn't respond to Nick anymore.
Yeah.
Come on, Tom.
I think you did something to him.
Yeah, what did you do?
I haven't done anything. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe I should have sent him flowers or something.
He graded all of the Big Ten teams in the regular season. He gave the Ohio State.
Oh, I don't even know what he gave them. I just scrolled down to Nebraska.
Go ahead and guess.
C.
D-.
Ryan Day, you idiot.
Ohio State will be in the college football playoff. That's great. It's a chance at redemption, but it doesn't matter to me here. The Buckeyes enter each season with 3 goals in a specific order. Beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, win a national title. They're 0-2 so far, and it's the 4th straight season they've come up short in that department. Maybe they salvage it by winning a national title. I mean, I can't disagree with his methodology.
He's right. Like every season you enter, you got to beat Michigan, and especially this Michigan team. And then after that, you got to win the Big Ten. They didn't even go to the championship game because they lost the first thing that they had to do.
It does make you wonder, how would a national title be received at Ohio State?
See, and this is where I feel like I am on an island yet again. So we had that topic earlier this week because Kirk Herbstreit said it would be better if they were on the road. No, it wouldn't. It's always better to be at home. And so one of the things now that I've heard is, yeah, their fans would be okay with it, but they still be mad. No, they would not. You would be totally great with a national championship. That is the sport. The sport is about winning a championship. You would get over it that you lost to Michigan. It's the national championship. It is the end-all, be-all. That would truly be the beginning of a new shift in mindset in college football.
Well, that's the thing, and this is why I will at least hear the conversation, because for college fans, this is different. This is completely different, because it used to be you had to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Or at the
maybe you could win one game, but rarely, especially if you're a school with an arch rival, rarely. I would love to look this up. How many national champions
have lost to their rival?
Have lost, and I'm talking arch rival. So, we're not talking like tangential, some of these lesser rivalries, but, how many national titles did Notre Dame win by not beating LC and vice versa? How many national titles I can tell you the answer is 0. Between Michigan and Ohio State, in the years they won national titles, they beat their rival.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn, Alabama. Who won the national title when that was Ohio State, right?
What?
And the kick six? No, the kick six was the year before.
Kick six was won by Florida State.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in those deep-seated, hate-filled arch rivalries,
mm-hmm.
How many times did the loser of the rivalry game win a national championship?
Yeah, I'm looking at some of those.
You'd have to identify, all right, these are definitely the rivalry games, and then go from there. Texas, Oklahoma.
I was just looking at some of the Oklahoma championship teams under Switzer. They always beat Texas. Obviously, the Bob Stoops team beat Texas because they were undefeated. That's an interesting point. You're right. Nebraska never lost to Oklahoma in years they won the national title. Oklahoma never lost to Nebraska in years they won the national title.
Right.
You mentioned Michigan and Ohio State.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't. So dare we say this would be the first? Well, no. Here's one for you, because they played them again. Florida lost to Florida State, then they beat them in the Sugar Bowl.
Right, but Ohio State's not going to get that second chance at Michigan.
Correct.
So no matter what happens, Michigan's going to have the pelt on their wall. Hey, you guys won that championship, but we beat you.
Yeah.
It's never happened before, and so yes. I agree with you in principle. You win a national championship, that should be the ultimate goal. But college sports are different in that these rivalry games, especially this rivalry, is so bitter and so ingrained that it is treated like winning a championship if you win the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so how much of an empty feeling will exist that you win the national title, but you lost to Michigan? I would love to see it. And the likelihood of something like this happening is greater now because there are 12 teams in the playoff and you don't have to be perfect. And we're going to have or at least there's a chance we could have a 2-loss national champion.
Oh, yeah.
I believe LSU is the only one, right, in the BCS era?
That I can remember. Yes, in the BCS era, they're the only
and
one.
that was a split one.
No, they won it their whole...
I thought they...
You're thinking of LSU and Oklahoma or in USC, but LSU only had one loss in that year.
Okay, thank you.
The 2-loss team was the only one.
Right.
But you're right. So here are the 1-loss teams that are in the playoffs or undefeated. Oregon's undefeated, obviously. Notre Dame is 11-1. Indiana is 11-1. Boise State is 12-1, and that's it. I don't think Boise is winning at all, and I don't think Indiana is winning at all. You and I like Notre Dame to make a deep run, and obviously Oregon has been the most consistent team all year. But if one of those teams slips up, Georgia's 11-2, Texas is 11-2, Penn State is 11-2, Ohio State is 10-2, Tennessee is 10-2. There's no 3-loss teams. But yeah, I mean, very much so. Put this on the long-term list. In the next 3 years, there will be a 2-loss champ. Again, it could happen this year.
Sure.
There will absolutely
Get the tomatoes.
Put it on the 5-year list. There could be a 3-loss champ.
Get the super tomatoes.
That's certainly going to happen. It's funny. This conversation was not supposed to turn into
No, it wasn't, but it was
it's a great window into the discussion we're about to have because, okay, so he gave Ohio State a D-. And so you realize, okay, so he is grading it on a curve of what that program views as a success.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have Michigan in front of you? I'm curious what Michigan would be. C+, I guess, if he gave them a D. I mean, they beat Ohio State. So does he go with like a
Michigan's
B?
a D+.
A D+. Interesting. Okay, so because they had a horrible year. The only thing was salvaged with that they beat Ohio State.
Right.
Okay. All right, so let's get to Nebraska.
Tom Fornelli gave Nebraska a B- and wrote, Nebraska had a preseason win projection of 7.5, which it finished well short of, but the public perception for this team differed from mine. If I were a Nebraska fan, the only thing I was hoping for entering this year was that Dylan Raiola would show promise and we would end the 7-year bowl drought. Mission accomplished on both. The only problem with the start or with the season was the 5-1 start that included the blowout over Colorado, got everyone hopes up early. However, that was followed by a 1-5 finish. I'm grading the entire picture, not just the last half, but it's hard to ignore that stretch run. So we're sticking a minus on this B. We asked a poll question of all of you earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
What grade would you give it? A B or better? A B-, just like Fornelli? A C or in the C's, so it can be C+, C-,
C-,
because there's only so many options we have here.
Yeah.
Or D or worse. And overwhelmingly, the Friends of the Grum, 71% said they would give it a C. 14% agreed with Fornelli, a B-, 12% a D or worse, 2% B or better. I think the answer is actually a D+.
Yeah.
It's a passing grade. Remember, D is passing.
Barely, yeah.
I used to tell that to my parents all the time. D is passing.
Imagine getting D's.
A D is passing.
I was an AB student.
Wow.
A D is passing. But this was a better than a 6-win team.
Yeah.
This was better than a 6-win team.
And I unlike, and by the way, thank you to Dave for pointing out Clemson has 3 losses. They do. So there could be a 3-loss champ this year. I don't think there will be, but there could be. Where I'll disagree with Tom is that the 1-5 finish really sullies it for me. That they did start off that way. That they did have the blowout win over Colorado. That the offense did look crisp. That Dylan Raiola did. I mean, Dylan peaked in the first part of the season.
Yeah.
Everything peaked in the first part of the season. Defense was better early. Offense was better early. Overall cohesion was better early. And it's not that they lost. It's how they lost. They just did not look like a good football team. Thankfully for them, there's only one blowout loss. And it's to a playoff team. But in a way, that makes it more frustrating. They took Ohio State to the edge.
Yeah.
But then the UCLA game, which is a 1-score loss, doesn't look like a 1-score loss.
No, it
You
wasn't.
and I watched that game at Cross Train, the proud sponsor of One Beer Friday. And that was a disgusting performance. They were down by 20.
They
Early in
were
the
down
second
by
half.
20. They were a home favorite, and they
Yeah.
had a chance to just make the bowl game and
Yeah.
end all the drama.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, the drama lasted a couple more weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the end, it may end up that loss could end up being one of the best things to happen, given what Matt Rule did right afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just grading the season, right? You're just grading this regular season. You're not grading what it could mean for beyond. You're not grading what happened before. You're just grading the season. This should have been at least a 7-win team. I had them picked 8. So if I'm going to have them picked 8 and they finish with 6, don't give a crap about the bowl. All right?
And I guess
don't give a crap about the bowl because if they wouldn't have made a bowl, they'd gotten an F.
Yeah, and here's where
this is barely above an F. This is a D.
I will disagree just a little bit with Tom. If I were a Nebraska fan, the only thing I was hoping for entering 2024 was that Dylan would show promise and we would end our 7-season bowl drought. I mean, like, I definitely think you can quibble a little bit with the first part too. He showed promise, but when was that promise? Was that, because of the schedule that they were playing early on?
Mm-hmm.
Now the argument against that, of course, would be, yeah, it got tougher, but he was also injured, which he was. He was very banged up over the course of the season. I guess I just don't leave the season, the signs of optimism with him as an individual quarterback maybe weren't what I would be hoping for. Honestly, we did all that research throughout the offseason. We had listeners providing information as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that always stood out to me about the 5-star quarterbacks, it wasn't the low end crap of like 1 and 2. It wasn't the high end Trevor Lawrence type performances. It was that a lot of them had numbers that ultimately Dylan Raiola had. And that is like, a so-so touchdown to interception ratio, a so-so completion percentage, and it was fine. Yards per attempt, so-so, like record so-so, like all that stuff kind of matched with a lot of those mid quarterbacks that we have seen as 5-stars. And a lot of those guys just kind of kept on doing that,
Right.
Like how much of it's him, how much of it is the players around him. I guess we're going to find out, at the very least, they are not standing pat. They changed coordinators midstream. There's a new receivers coach. There will be new receivers to throw the ball to. There will be, the offense is going to have quite the makeover for good and for bad. For good in that, like, I don't think that they could have stood pat. For bad, though, in that that's a lot of changes to make in such a short amount of time. I think that they're at the very least trying to put him in the best position to succeed. And they were able to keep him. You could have made the argument, John, that if the NIL rumors or the transfer portal rumors were true and somebody pulled him away, it would have actually been more damaging for what it says about Nebraska as a program than what it says about him as an individual quarterback. Like, I think it would have been worse for the vibes than it would have been maybe for the type of player they lost. But maybe I'm overreacting to one season of football and how he played.